A girl misses the last bus by accident, and ends up crossing paths with a demon wearing human skin. At first, she actually thinks she's lucky. But the moment she spots that cold iron bar, the smile on her face vanishes instantly, replaced by sheer terror. Without a word, the driver knocks her out cold. But the kidnapping? That's just the beginning. The real thrill for this monster comes from the killing and the torture that follows. The next morning, just before dawn, fate takes a turn for the killer. He spots a girl waiting for a tow truck and figures to lure her into his vehicle by offering to help. But she's surprisingly sharp, she politely turns him down right away. The brute pretends to leave, but the second she lets her guard down, he doubles back with a weapon. The girl panics and scrambles into the passenger seat, desperate to escape. But tragically, a metal grate outside the door blocks her only way out. She's completely outmatched. Just like the last one, she gets knocked unconscious. After God knows what kind of torture, the girl looks like she's barely clinging to life. But just as the killer picks out his tool and gets ready to finish her off, she blurts out that she's pregnant and begs him to let her go. The brute hesitates for a second. But in the end, he kills her anyway. After disposing of the body, he starts washing the blood off the floor. What he doesn't notice is that the girl's ring gets swept right into a nearby drain. And that tiny little mistake? It's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. The next morning, some kid finds a black box out in the countryside. When it's opened, inside is a severed ear. That night, police launch a full-scale search. It doesn't take long before two officers make a major discovery. They find the victim's head in the water. Within minutes, the scene is swarming with media. In all the chaos, one of the workers accidentally flings the victim's head into the open. And two men see the whole thing. One is the girl's father. The other is the victim's husband. Both of them are cops. And neither ever imagined their loved ones would leave them like this. Days later, at the funeral, Jack breaks down completely. Kneeling before his wife's urn, he swears he'll make the killer pay blood for blood. So the moment he gets back to the station, he files for a leave of absence. Then, using his father-in-law's connections, he gets his hands on files for 5 suspects. All he has to do now is eliminate them one by one, and he'll find the man who murdered his wife. That very night, suspect number 1 gets a visit from Justice. But no matter how hard Jack presses him, the guy gives up nothing useful. Seeing how stubborn he is, Jack doesn't hesitate to beat the answer out of him. Over the next 2 days, he pays visits to suspects 2 and 3. But unfortunately, neither of them is the killer he's looking for. Then one day, when he pushes open the door to suspect number 4's place, everything starts to click. Women's underwear hidden in a drawer. Bloodstains still wet on the floor out back. It all fits the profile of a serial killer. But what truly confirms the man's identity is a diamond ring sitting in the drain. Jack can't even begin to imagine what his wife went through before she died. At least now he's found the killer. And he's going to make him pay. Meanwhile, the killer, John, has already picked out his next target. Using his cover as a school bus driver, he doesn't even need to use force. He easily lures a young girl away. When she groggily comes to, she finds herself tied up from head to toe. And the friendly bus driver she used to know has transformed into a monster. She struggles with everything she's got, but she's powerless to fight back. At the critical moment, a low whisper cuts through the air and stops the man cold. Hearing his own name, John's blood runs cold. He grabs a sickle off the ground and creeps toward the sound. But when he sees it's just one guy, his fear melts into arrogance. After all, he's a serial killer. Why would he be afraid of a one-on-one fight? Their eyes lock from across the room, and John makes the first move. But the second the fight begins, he realizes just how wrong he is. This guy can not only fight, he's absolutely ruthless. So John pulls out a knife tucked in his waistband and starts slashing wildly. But by the time he's completely gassed out, he hasn't landed a single hit. Realizing he's outmatched, John hurls the sickle and takes off running. But a guy his size doesn't stand a chance against Jack. In 3 steps, Jack catches up and kicks him straight into a melon shed. Then Jack grabs a sheet of plastic wrap and pulls it tight over John's head. Within seconds, the lack of oxygen drains all the fight out of him. Jack's ready to bash the monster's skull in right then and there, but he stops himself. Because a quick death would be too easy for this piece of trash. Every ounce of suffering his wife endured, John's going to get it back 100 times over. So Jack pulls a capsule from his pocket and shoves it into John's mouth. It's a piece of high-tech gear he borrowed from a colleague before his leave. It's got GPS tracking and even a listening function built in. Now, all Jack has to do is open his phone, and he can track John's every move in real time. And with that, a long, drawn-out game of revenge begins. After who knows how long, John finally comes to. He looks around nervously, but there's not a soul in sight. And stranger still, the man actually left behind a stack of cash. John can't help but laugh in disbelief. Beat him up first, then leave money for the hospital? This guy's clearly out of his mind. Since he can't figure out what the man wants, and the school bus is definitely on the police radar by now, he decides to get out of there first and figure things out later. What John doesn't know is that his every move is already under Jack's control. On his way down the mountain, John flags down a taxi. But the second he gets in, something feels off. The shifty-eyed driver, the sketchy-looking passenger in the back, neither of them looks like a good person. And the driver's registration photo confirms his suspicion. He just lost a victim and took a beating for no reason. John's been dying to blow off some steam. And lucky for him, he's just run into 2 thugs cut from the same cloth. What follows is a brutal brawl inside that stolen taxi. The next morning, John drives the stolen car to a clinic. His injuries aren't too serious, so the doctor patches him up pretty quickly. He's about to rough up the old man to skip the bill, but the moment he lays eyes on the young nurse, a dark thought takes over. Forget the old man. John corners the nurse in the storage room and orders her to strip. When she doesn't move, he punches straight through a glass cabinet. The poor girl's never seen anything like this. She's absolutely terrified. Under his relentless pressure, she starts to give in through her tears. But just as John's about to get what he wants, the locked door swings open from the outside. Jack bursts in with a fire extinguisher. After another savage beating, John goes down again. The nurse tries to bolt, but Jack stops her. He asks her to wait just a moment, he's going to need her help with something. Then he pulls off John's shoes and socks and slices through his Achilles tendon with a single cut. Hours later, John and his car are dumped out in the middle of nowhere. He still can't figure out what he ever did to this guy. But one thing he knows for sure, there's a tracker on him somewhere. There's no other way the man keeps finding him so easily. And while John's guess is right, he'd never imagine that the little tracker is actually inside his stomach. He searches from dawn till dark but comes up empty. So he decides to crash at a friend's place, heal up, and then plan his revenge. As you might expect, anyone who's friends with a serial killer isn't exactly a saint either. Paul's particular hobby? Eating people. He's a serial cannibal. After hearing about John's recent ordeal, Paul figures the guy must be a family member of one of the victims. The reason he hasn't gone to the police is because he wants to take revenge with his own hands. But by now, he's probably snapped, become a monster just like the two of them. Seeing John's face darken, Paul quickly wipes the grin off his face. He tells his buddy to pick any room and crash for the night while he goes to prepare tomorrow's breakfast. Outside the villa, Jack hears every word of their conversation. He'd only planned to torment John, but tonight, Paul needs a lesson too. As Jack quietly pries open the back door, Paul has just selected tomorrow's breakfast. He drags a girl onto the chopping block and is about to get started when the stereo behind him suddenly cuts out. Since the man insists on having the right ambience while he works, he immediately goes to fix it. But when he comes back, the girl who was tied to the table has mysteriously vanished. He turns around and nearly jumps out of his skin. There's a man standing right behind him. Looking at this scum, Jack gets a strange sense of déjà vu. First, the guy's going to talk a bunch of nonsense. Then he'll put on what he thinks is a terrifying face, flash a stupid grin, and then, here comes the attack. Paul does exactly what Jack expects. The only difference? He's even worse in a fight than John. Just as Jack's about to finish this monster off, the kitchen door suddenly swings open from outside. John freezes for a second, then raises a gun and fires. Under the barrage, Jack has no choice but to fall back. John doesn't chase. Instead, he frees Paul first. Jack doesn't leave either. He slips up to the second floor, looking for a chance to pick them off one by one. As he holds his breath, waiting for an opening, he doesn't notice someone creeping up behind him. Luckily, the woman's sneak attack only grazes his skin. But as Jack reaches for his dropped weapon, Paul charges out at him. One missed swing, and that's all the chance Paul gets. In seconds, he's completely done for. And right then, John silently closes in. Jack spots him and whips out a handful of fish hooks, scattering them across the floor. The brute is so focused on the chase that he doesn't see the hooks until it's too late. Seizing the moment, Jack rushes in and lands a flying kick square on the killer's body. But this time, Jack hits a little too hard. To keep the torment going, he has no choice but to take John to a hospital for treatment. Sitting in the car, he can't help but think about what Paul said. Maybe he really has turned into a full-blown monster himself. The next morning, Paul and his wife are taken to the hospital by police. Jack, meanwhile, gets his own wounds treated at a remote clinic. His colleague tells him to call it quits. But Jack says he made a vow to his wife, he's going to make that scumbag pay in blood. His colleague then asks how the capsule's working. As long as the guy doesn't get diarrhea, it should be fine. The second those words leave his mouth, Jack tells him to shut up. Because if John finds out about the capsule, he'll slip right out of Jack's grasp. While hunting for laxatives, he doesn't miss a chance to mess with Jack's head. He tells Jack that before he killed her, the girl said she was pregnant. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Then he drops an even bigger bomb, he's about to do something huge. And if Jack can't stop him in time, he'll regret it for the rest of his life. While Jack races to the scene, John has already locked himself in a bathroom stall. Minutes later, he finds the blinking capsule in his own waist. But to throw Jack off, he targets an unlucky cab driver. After getting the guy to open his mouth, John shoves the capsule down his throat, then takes off in the driver's taxi. By the time Jack follows the GPS signal, he's a step too late. All that's left in the bathroom is a confused stranger. John is long gone. Without a way to track him, Jack is consumed by panic. Just when he's at a total loss, a face flashes through his mind. He races to the hospital, slaps Paul awake, and demands to know where John is headed. He figures it'll take some convincing, but Paul doesn't hold back at all. He tells Jack that John is definitely on his way to Jack's father-in-law's house. Once he's done there, he'll most likely turn himself in. Because watching Jack suffer, that's what gives him the greatest pleasure. Jack's eyes go red with rage. He rips Paul's mouth apart, then tears off toward his father-in-law's home. But halfway there, he gets devastating news. John has already contacted the police and agreed to surrender in 1 hour. And the phone's GPS signal? It's only 500 meters from his father-in-law's house. Jack feels like his whole world is collapsing. He frantically calls his father-in-law. But the disguised demon arrives at the same time. As expected, the father-in-law doesn't escape John's wrath. And just as the monster is about to leave, Jack's younger sister-in-law walks through the front door, home from work. And if nothing goes wrong, well, something's about to go very wrong. Half an hour later, when Jack finally arrives, the house is already surrounded by police. His father-in-law survived, but he'll never live a normal life again. Jack is consumed by regret. If he hadn't insisted on taking revenge himself, his father-in-law and sister-in-law would never have been hurt. Just then, the police receive a call from John. And John specifically asks to speak with Jack. He mocks Jack for biting off more than he can chew. Then he tells Jack he's about to turn himself in, so Jack will never get his chance for revenge. 30 minutes later, the Seoul police station is lined with officers. And just like he promised, John drives up to surrender. He's covered in blood and battered head to toe, but there's not a trace of fear on his face. He raises his hands in surrender, and the officers move in to arrest him. At the last second, Jack comes flying out of nowhere. He drifts his car right up to John, grabs him, and throws him into the vehicle. Right under the cops' noses, he snatches the demon away. Jack takes John back to his own lair. Even staring death in the face, the man is still smiling. As a lifelong predator, he doesn't know what fear is. He doesn't know what pain is. In their war against each other, the monster won a crushing victory. John's right, Jack has already lost far too much. So before this ends, he's going to make sure John feels exactly what he felt. Using whatever he can find, Jack builds a makeshift guillotine. The moment the rope is released, the blade drops. Death alone won't scare John. But what if the one pulling the trigger is his own family? Would that change things? John's elderly parents and young child rush to the scene, still oblivious to what's about to happen. And John, strapped to the chopping block, is still running his mouth, as arrogant as ever. But 30 seconds later, he too will taste despair.
아빠!
As the force on the door grows stronger and stronger, John finally breaks. The notorious serial killer meets his end at the hands of his own family. As for how those three will live with what just happened, well, that's not Jack's problem anymore. And that's where our movie ends today. Thanks for watching.